and good evening from the UK. Welcome to our climate crisis FBS chat. This is part two. Some of you may have already watched us a few months ago, I think a couple of months ago, where we had a very interesting conversation about the climate crisis. And as a parent, it was absolutely amazing and very, very valuable for me to kind of be present here and ask some questions about how I can tackle those conversations with my own children. I am actually at home today and I have a 6-year-old upstairs. So I'm going to pass everything over to Jonas and I'm going to do a lot of the behind the scenes work this evening. So, Mr. Jonas, you are now host. Take it
Oh dear.
away.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much. Welcome everybody to this very special event. We had a really nice call in mid-September sometime, and we kind of introduced the idea of climate crisis and FBS chat and coaching conversations and something. So today we're really inspired to continue that kind of call and do something very special. Today's going to be we're going to hear and be able to reflect and ask questions about a live demo coaching conversation. I'm just going to introduce everybody before I get into what else might be happening. But my name is Jonas Wells. I live and work in Sweden. I'm engaged in many different ways in climate crisis, both politically in my family. I'm a parent of 3. I'm active in my party, trying to raise local support and community around these issues. And I work a lot as a solution-focused trainer and practitioner in the field of organizational collaboration. It's a big thing. But anyway, all these things kind of drop and pale in comparison to the whole, the idea of climate crisis. And I find it very engaging and very worthwhile to spend time thinking about and talking to people about, and we're going to do more of that today. Who else is here? Brian, do you want to say something about you? Because it's really good to have you here today.
I'm Brian Jennings. I teach ethics, among other things, at a faith-based university college in Ghana, and I'm very, very concerned and engaged with the climate crisis from the point of view of the moral issues around it, but even more so of the kind of people that we need to be to engage with this crisis and indeed to help build the solutions. And one of the things that I'm very conscious of is the responsibility of my generation for the situation that we're actually bequeathing to younger generations. And so how can we best address our responsibility and support people like Olivia?
Yeah. And that's really nice to go over. We've got 2 more other people, great people in the room. We have Olivia Eken and Peter Sharbo, and you're going to be like the main. We're going to have a really nice live demo kind of coaching call between the 2 of you. But Olivia, would you like to say something about you? We met last time you were here, and it was just great getting to know you. I know there's a lot of people who would like to get to know you too. So who would you say what would you like to say about yourself?
My name is Olivia Eken. I'm a climate activist from London, and I'm 17 years old. And I've just realised a lot about the climate crisis in the last couple of years, and it's something I'm really passionate to learn more about. But taking it from a kind of solution focused aspect, I think we've had so much time to discuss what it is and kind of get our heads around it. And I think really now is a time to think about the solutions and how we can move forward. So I'm really grateful to be with everyone here today.
Wow, thank you so much for being here, Olivia. And Peter, you're going to be doing some interviewing today. Wow.
Yeah, looks like.
Tell us something about you.
So interviewing interesting people on stuff that is important to them. That's still one of my passions. And the other one, in the last 3 years, I kind of got drawn into this. All of a sudden, it seems like I know about many details of what's going on in our natural world, to the point that probably now I know more, for example, about the state of the ice in the Arctic than I do about coaching. So both hats.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know how to take this, but there's this is a difficult issue, and I realize it could be very difficult to engage in. So Aisha, I know that you will be posting something on the bottom, maybe of where you can get some help. If anything we do here today kind of pushes you towards the fences a bit, that's both fine and something that we want to just be aware of, that these are issues that could be troubling to talk about. And they are for us too, I think. I mean, these are it's not easy. It's not easy at all. And I'm instinctively also reacting to the word solutions too, and even our in our heading, solution focused brief therapy or solution focused practice. These are tough things, and just the idea of a solution isn't always that easy to grasp. And I'm not saying we should, but I think whatever's going to happen in the future, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for conversations, a lot of opportunities to talk to people and be around people. And I'm just hoping that this hour that we got together gives us some ideas in ways that we could engage with each other that be more useful or helpful or somehow make a difference, just somehow. I mean, these are tough issues. Anybody will attest. So we're going to, in the next 20 or so minutes, we're going to hear a really nice conversation. It's not pre-planned. We don't know what's coming. It's going to be in the moment. So it's a live with my emphasis on live coaching. And there will be a chance during the conversation. I think Brian and I might become engaged somehow. We'll see what happens during the call, where we can kind of bring some affirmation and some confirmation and maybe some things that we're observing in the call that we'd like to share to especially about Olivia and all her strengths and resources. But there will also be time after the call for us to all together, not just here, us people that you can see on your frame, but everybody to ask questions and engage with what we're learning and what we're more curious about, or what we're observing even. So please keep your fingers warm. You can do some exercising, so you can write your questions in the chat and be on the ready, because Aisha will be there to pick them up, and we really want to engage with everybody who's here tonight or today, wherever we are in the world. So is that enough of a kind of a structure so everybody kind of some idea what to expect in the next 20 or so minutes? And anyway, so I'm just going to give the hand over to Olivia and to Peter to
yeah. So if I remove Jonas, you and Brian from the chat, but then when you come back in, hold on, I think that's my phone. When you do want to come back in, oh, sorry guys, just put it in private chat for me.
Okay, brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Olivia, welcome.
Hi, Peter.
Hey, Olivia, thank you so much for wanting this conversation.
Well, thank you for involving me.
And so I'm really curious, Olivia, now that you're here, what would you want to come out of this?
Well, I really hope that people who are watching kind of take something away from our conversation, because there is a lot about climate change in the news, and it can be quite distressing and people can feel quite hopeless. But I really hope that people kind of come out of this webinar feeling optimistic about how we can prevent climate change, and just kind of have their own discussions in their own homes about the climate crisis, because that's what's so important. I think it's something we all need to be involved in and all need to be thinking about, because we all have a role in it. Our home is threatened currently by the climate crisis. So I feel like I'd really like people to kind of be a bit optimistic, not very pessimistic, but optimistic about the future of our planet.
Okay. I can already hear how come we said that you're a climate activist. Yes, you're starting with what you dearly want to become possible here. So, what would be the most satisfying, the most reinforcing and helpful for you that might come out of this? Not while we're talking, but in the effects afterwards. What are your very best hopes that might start to become possible?
Well, I really hope that people, I mean, with climate change, I think it's always in the back of people's minds, but I really hope it does move to the front of people's minds, because this is an everyday issue. And I feel like it's not something that can just be like, oh, well, it's happening, I'm just going to try and get on with my life, because climate change is interlinked with all aspects of our life. The climate crisis plays in everything that we do. It's linked to our food systems, our water systems, the way that we live, our homes, our people, everything. It's all interlinked. And I really hope that people kind of realize that, and people can see how much of an issue it is, and how much we need to combat it. So that's what I really hope for.
Okay. And suppose that would start to happen, that now is the beginning. What might it lead to that is dear and important to you?
Oh, I hope it leads to climate action, because that's what we so desperately need right now. And I don't mean climate action from individuals. I don't mean individual actions like maybe eating less meat, or changing from a plastic straw to a metal straw or something, because it doesn't really make a big difference in the long term. I mean, it's great because I still do individual actions, but I feel like I really hope something big will happen. We do need climate action. We need to change the way we're operating and the way that we're living on this planet collectively, because it is a collective issue that we face.
Okay, good. So from the individual to the collective, and your role in that shift?
Well, I feel like everyone does have a role, and there's there's an extent to how much people can participate. It's not within everyone's capacity to be out taking 2 weeks off work and protesting with Extinction Rebellion every week. I mean, that's not really viable, but I feel like everyone does have a role, and it's about exploring your role and how much you can do. I mean, even just having conversations at home was what we were talking about last time that we met. That's so important. It makes a big difference about teaching your children about the climate crisis. I mean, there's power within education, and I feel like there are so many things that we can do, much bigger things. I think our words are much more powerful sometimes than just changing little actions like walking to school instead, for example. So I feel like that's what the role is.
And it seems like this is an important transition for you. Can you say a couple of words what made it possible and easier for you to make this transition to climate action, how you call it, collectively?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started learning about climate change, I think what really inspired me was the student protests, the Fridays for Future movement. And I took part in those in London.
Oh,
and
you did?
Yeah, I mean, I went to quite a few, and that's when I started learning more about how, for example, meat is really damaging. So I decided to become vegetarian, and there was so much I wanted to do. I was like, I can do all these things. I can walk places. I can use public transport more. And then I realized, and trying to having conversations with my friends and trying to encourage them, oh, maybe we should start to cut out more meat from our diet. And it made me realize that not everyone can do that. That's not within everyone's capacity. And there's much bigger, much more meaningful impacts that can be made. And so I learned about an incinerator that is in my area already in Edmonton, but they're planning to expand it and make it into an even bigger facility, and it will emit nearly 700,000 tons of CO2 every year when it's built. And that's just crazy to me, because we're at such a crucial time within the climate crisis. We've got such little time to actually make action, and to see an investment continuing in polluting industries is what really made me see that actually me just changing my diet is not going to help solve the climate crisis. My energy should be invested into preventing this incinerator, and then connecting with different people within my community who are also really passionate about the expansion of the Edmonton incinerator, people who want to prevent it going ahead. I realized that there is so much more power in what we do together than what I do by myself at home, and learning from other people. I mean, I've got a great knowledge in incineration now, simply because I connected with people in my area. And that's what really inspired me. And that's what made me feel like we actually can make a change, because, like I said, doing something by myself at home is not going to make as big of a change unless I connect with the people around me. And I mean, just fighting against kind of the bigger things on a wider scale, challenging our government, challenging our local authorities, and challenging these polluting industries makes much more of a bigger impact than, like I said, switching to a metal straw.
You said you learned stuff about that. How did it make a difference in the way you are being present in this life at this time? Can you give a couple of examples? How, what does it mean to do this transition?
For example, waste is a big issue within kind of the climate crisis. It plays a big role, and we always just think, oh, it's going to landfill, that's the issue. And then I didn't realize my waste was going to incineration. Maybe some people do. I mean, it goes to incineration and it gets burnt, and it releases harmful particulates into the atmosphere and creates just further global warming and climate crisis. And it was really important to me to kind of transition from, oh, well, I can reduce my waste at home, maybe then less will go into the incinerator. And I was like, actually, no, what I can do is use my voice to show that I'm opposed to this, to show that people in our area do not want this incinerator to be rebuilt. And that makes much more of an impact, because every voice matters rather than every little action matters. I mean, every action does matter, obviously, but on the bigger scale, I mean, just kind of using your voice and talking about, or even just having conversations at home. I mean, for example, if I learned about the incinerator at a younger age, I mean, I feel like I'd be in a much different position to where I am today. I would know much more about it, and I would have much more of a bigger role in combating it, I think. I mean, it's so important to have these conversations, because growing up, I thought it was a factory, and my parents didn't know what it was, even though it's been in our area for 52 years. No one really knows what it is. So,
yeah. Do your parents know now? And how did that happen?
My parents know now, because I've had those conversations with my parents, and I've said the kind of pollution you see coming out from it every week is they're not producing anything, they're burning stuff from our homes, and a lot of that waste can be recycled, for example. And it's about investing and choosing the right solutions. I mean, nothing is perfect. For example, recycling is not perfect, but it's much better of a solution than incineration. So it's about demanding that, and it's about asking for that, or just about being aware that this is what is happening. I mean, right under our noses, and we had no idea. And the Edmonton incinerator is an environmental injustice. It's a racial injustice as well, because Edmonton is a really diverse area. It's got me 65% of the population from ethnic minority communities, and then it's also one of the most deprived wards in the UK. So, I mean, it's not a coincidence that they place incinerators in these type of areas, while incinerators in like Cambridgeshire get rejected because the local people don't want it to spoil their view of the wetlands, for example. It's just crazy to me. And it's about, and the thing is with the incinerator as well, a lot of people in Edmonton do not realize that they're breathing in that air from the incinerator, and that it's harming them, and that is environmental racism. And I feel like that knowledge is so vital, because people should know what's affecting them. People should know what they're breathing in every day. And I think that's why it's so powerful to have these conversations and to kind of explore the climate crisis in more depth, because it's all interlinked. I mean, the incinerator isn't just harmful particulates and carbon dioxide going into the atmosphere. It's directly linked to us. It's our waste, it's what we consume, but it's more about what they're doing with that and where the responsibility lies, because it's not with me throwing away plastic yogurt pot at the end of the day. It's with the North London Waste Authority, the authority that are running the board, running the incinerator, sorry, and that are deciding to expand it, even though so many people oppose it.
Whoa. Okay, now I start to understand what you mean if you say transitioning from, becoming a vegetarian to become informed and active. If you look back at this transition process of yours, what are you most proud about, or what are you most grateful for to have learned and to have been able to do?
Well, I'm really grateful that I've been able to hear other people's stories and hear other people's experiences and what they've learned from this process, because I would not have this knowledge or be in this position today if I didn't meet people from my community, or if I didn't listen to them or hear their expertise. And even listening to you guys here, I mean, I'm learning so much from you guys, and I'm so grateful for that, because that's where kind of our power lies. It's when we connect with each other, when we listen to each other, because we have so much to learn from each other, because we're not in this alone. I mean, I'm not the only person living on this planet. Climate change isn't just going to affect me, it affects all of us. And that's why it's so important, I feel like, to kind of connect with the people around you. And that's what I'm most grateful for, that I've had that opportunity, because I know not everyone does.
And it's so interesting. I asked you about what you're most proud about, and you immediately start to talk about connecting and listening to other people and working with other people. Can I be a little bit persistent? And if there was one thing that you are satisfied with, or even maybe proud about yourself that you made possible?
Well, I'm just grateful that I've been able to kind of have a voice and be able to express myself and my views on the climate crisis, whether that's on webinars like this, or contacting my MP, or talking with other people in my area, or challenging the board that runs the incinerator, for example. And that's something I'm quite proud of, that I've been able to use my voice, I mean, on a personal level. But I think, again, I wouldn't have been able to do that without the people around me. So
yeah. Okay, good. Okay. All right. We've launched ourselves into this transition thing. And what else would you want to become possible now that you not only have a voice, but you're actually being heard by a couple of people?
Well, I hope that everyone can be heard, and our kind of collective desires and our what we want to see is kind of hard, because we're not really being represented. If I link it back to the incinerator again, not enough people in the area know that the incinerator is there, it's going to be expanded, and that they're breathing in the pollutants that come out of it. And I think the movement would be much more powerful if everyone in the area knew about it, if the ethnic minorities and people living in Edmonton right next to the incinerator who are experiencing health issues from it already, if they also had a voice and if they also knew. And because I think we see that a lot with environmentalism, it's always kind of the same people. And I mean, a lot of the time it is white middle class people. And I mean, it's not a terrible thing, but they're not the only groups that are going to be affected by climate change. It's going to be ethnic minorities, it's going to be people in the global south, it's going to be people, just marginalized communities in general. Like, incinerators are more likely to be built in deprived and ethnically diverse areas, like 3 times more likely, to be put in ethnically diverse areas and deprived areas than they are to other areas that are not as diverse or not as deprived. So that is an injustice. I mean, climate change is about social justice. So I feel like that transition to kind of realizing that is something that's so powerful, because everyone has different interests. I'm not saying everyone is going to be interested in the climate crisis, but everyone has different passions, whether that's about racism or classism or sexism, for example. I mean, that all links to climate change, because those communities are going to be the people who are most impacted by the climate crisis. So that's why I feel like it's so important, because it's all interlinked. You can't really exclude those aspects from climate justice or from climate action, for example.
And what I notice is that you become active on a local level. concretely, if you look back, what has been most effective to be heard by people who had no clue what they're breathing in? How'd you go about that?
I mean, it's quite difficult because there's still a lot of people living in Edmonton that don't know about it. And I think what's been successful is kind of everyone kind of collects in their own groups. For example, like a lot, especially in London, because of how diverse it is, you have different communities, such as like Turkish community centres or Somali community centres, or just different groups and different associations. And that's what's kind of been successful about the incinerator movement, because we've got loads of groups connected. We've got XR, but we've also got Black Lives Matter Enfield. And so all these groups kind of collecting together, that's what's been really powerful in kind of spreading the message, and that's what's been effective. Because if you kind of approach individuals, I don't think it will necessarily have as much impact as if we do when we're together. And that's why it's been quite effective.
Okay, before we cross back to Brian and Jonas and hear some of what they heard from you, I'd like to, I'm so curious about one detail. You know, this talk is supposed to be about how adults talk with their kids, but you mentioned that you managed as a young adult to talk with your parents. How did you set that up? I mean, it's probably part of your expertise, you know, to start the communication. How did you do that?
Well, yeah, obviously it works in both ways. It's not just about adults talking to their children, but children also talking to their parents. Yeah. We learn a lot from each other. And I think just telling my parents, firstly, that I was interested about the incinerator and asking them, do you know about it? Just kind of started the conversation. I was like, look what I learned today. And that's what happens a lot of time with children. It's like, Mommy, look what I learned at school today. So it's, yeah. I think that's kind of one way you can start the conversation. It doesn't have to be very distressing, but just as in, pointing out in the skyline that chimney is actually burning our waste, for example, or things like that. Or look what I've just seen on the news, this flood. It's in this country and this is why it's happening. I mean, there's so many ways we can start conversations. And I think that is so important because we've got so much to learn from each other.
Okay. Can we take a short thinking break for you and the possibility for Brian and Jonas to reflect upon what they have heard from you? And it's kind of important that we, get all the pearls and details of what you do and how you do. So what did the two of you notice? What struck you as effective and working?
Ooh. I heard Olivia say a lot about using her voice and getting the voice. You both exploring the use of her own voice and using it together with others. And another thing that also struck me was really cool was the passion that she has for learning and engaging with people. I mean, this is I'm almost lost for words because I know Olivia's only 17, and this is something that's been engaging for her the last couple of years. And I'm just dying to ask questions like, how did you know that to do the exact right thing in order to get these groups engaged and build this collective energy that you're so inspired by and wanting to learn from? I mean, there's so much courage in that, and there's so much humility in that, which I'm just so curious about. That's just. I'm going to stop there and bring Brian in. Brian, what
yeah.
And Olivia, remember that question. So maybe you would want to answer Jonas's plea. Yes, Brian.
Yeah. What impressed me was the building of networks and the building of relationships. So you began just by talking about how you were sharing with your friends about becoming a vegetarian, and then at some point you're in the Fridays for the Future, And so you're inside that network, and so your awareness is growing. And suddenly, at some point, you realize that the factory isn't really a factory; it's an incinerator. And then you begin, you discover who is involved in this campaign, and you find they're all middle-class white people. Here we are, But then you do something even more significant, that you then begin to connect with people from different diaspora communities, and the fact that this is being built in a place where people think that the powers that be think that they can get away with it, because it's just all of these apparently marginalized communities who are dissociated from each other. But now you're part of the movement of bringing all of these different groups together and say, oh, do you realize what's happening here? Do you realize, that these people need to be challenged and confronted, and we need to unite and assert our integrity, our humanity, our authority in this situation. So I find that really very remarkable as you went down that road, because a lot of us would just stop at the point where we're talking to our friends, and if we win our friends over, we'll think we've done jolly well. But yeah. But here you are. Hey, you're part of forming a movement, and I guess the tantalizing thing to me, you see, because the tantalizing thing to me, see, that incinerator will affect the air and the temperature in Ghana. And one of the things that makes me think is these diaspora communities, the Somalis, and the Turks and the other groups, because there's been these terrible fires in Turkey which have been linked to climate change. And will they begin to say, hey, we're involved in this fight about this incinerator, but do you realize it also impacts you? And that has so much more weight than somebody of my complexion and accent trying to tell my neighbors, hey, we've really got to be taking climate change seriously, because it's all the white middle class people that actually are at the heart of this in the first place. And one of the dangers is that we'll get different kinds of colonialism, and we're already seeing it when you've got the sort of the minority world trying to tell how the majority world how they should adapt to climate change without doing the necessary steps themselves.
Okay, thank you, Brian. I can't help it. Apparently, communication is still one of the things that I kind of hear. So I ask you, Olivia, how did you go about, involving your parents? And then sorry, this is so simple, and it is so effective beginnings of effective communication. You begin by asking them, hey, so what do you know? So it's not, you pushing your wisdom. No. You involve them with a very simple question that gets things rolling. Wow. Okay, cool. Yep.
It's that normalizing conversation again, isn't it? Just having those.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But I actually, Olivia, my parents live in Edmonton.
Wow. Did they know?
And I was born in Edmonton, and I lived in Edmonton for a good 20 odd years. I mean, I'm only 28, so 20 years. No one say anything about that. And I actually tried having this conversation with my parents about the incinerator, and bless them, and I hope they are watching. The car thing came up. Yeah, but they know what they're doing. See, because when they came to this country in the 70s, you follow the law of the land. You adapt to the culture. You follow the law of the land. And I mean, they didn't flee here. They were asked by the Brits to come here years ago. So, you know, they weren't in poverty or anything. There was nothing like that. Or fleeing a war. They came here and they worked really hard and they owned properties and blah, 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 blah. But they follow the law of the land. And if this is what the people above them are suggesting that is needed, then that is what is needed. And I said, but actually, so I kind of started breaking it down a little bit. And I think I started breaking it down a bit too much to the point where they just weren't listening to me anymore. They just thought I was just, you know. But actually, Olivia, the way that you kind of described it is actually really useful. So I've just been texting my mother exactly what you've been saying. And I'm hoping to have that conversation with them again, because it's not the law. You know, we should all have law, abide by law. It keeps us safe. However, we are a democracy, and we do have a voice, and it's really important that we use our voice. And one voice plus another voice plus another voice plus another voice equals to something. So absolutely, definitely. And I think the way that you've just kind of normalized those conversations are amazing. But I will be having these conversations with my parents because they do live in Edmonton. And even if they weren't, we're all affected.
Hey, thank you so much, Aisha. I think you are monitoring the chat. And we have one question from Jonas so far. And so, Olivia, it will be up to you. And Aisha will offer one question from the chat, and I'll let you choose which one you would like to answer first. Anything that pops into your eyes, Aisha?
Well, I've got a few WhatsApp messages from the parent WhatsApp group here. One of them saying that, well, it's a statement, really.
A statement, okay.
Statement stroke question. No one listens to us anyway, so so this parent totally agrees with what you're saying, Olivia, and what everyone is suggesting here this evening. However, no one listens to us anyway, so what is the point on fighting the system?
See,
okay, that's a statement. Okay, I'm sorry, Jonas. It was such a brilliant question, but she got triggered. I'm sorry. Okay, go, Olivia.
Well, I think it's so easy to feel that way. I sometimes feel that way because we're so used to people making decisions on our behalf and they don't make the right decisions. But we have to challenge it because it's our planet and we have to be represented. I think it's so easy for people to just, because we don't get represented, it's so easy for people to just kind of dissociate from that and be like, well, there's nothing I can do. Let me just leave it. But you've seen with the school strikes, I mean, no one was really talking about climate change on the scale that they are now. And it only really started because of Greta Thunberg standing outside the Swedish Parliament and making those conversations about climate change happen, and those movements kind of transform from that. So I feel like there is so much that we can do. And I think obviously on an individual level, no one's going to listen to an individual saying don't build an incinerator. But if there's thousands and thousands of us, then they'll be forced to listen because they're representing us, and if we feel like they're not, then they're not going to be elected in the future, and so their kind of reputation and their jobs are at stake. So they have no really decision but to kind of listen to us, and it all comes with connecting with each other and collective action. Because on an individual scale, there, I agree, no one's going to listen to us. No one will do anything. Yeah.
I've just got a question that's kind of bursting in my brain because I find it fascinating that you have this drive and this kind of persistence and this clarity about taking action and how to work with this extremely complex but extremely real issue. And I'm also kind of aware that we're here kind of talking about how can we, like a meta conversation, how can we talk about talk? And how can we talk about climate crisis in useful ways? And I'm just so curious about your own journey to come to where you are today. And I want to ask a question because I probably never asked anybody before. But and you often ask about, how did this start for you? What was the first step? But I want to know, what was the step after that? What was the step after the first step that helped you to keep that momentum going?
That's a really good question, actually. I think it was, I learned about climate change and just like kind of on a self level after attending those protests. And then it was having those conversations with my friends, like, oh, I'm going to be vegetarian. Like, why don't you try it out? And one of my friends was very resistant to it. She was like, no, it's not going to make a difference. I really love meat. I'm going to carry on eating meat. And I realized, and then having taken that away from that conversation and having a conversation with my family, I had a conversation with my cousin, and she was like, yes, but you can't expect everyone to go vegetarian, because even if we do, it doesn't change the issue. And the root issue is our global food production systems. That is the root issue, not people eating meat. And that's where I kind of realized, okay, I need to look further into this now, not people going vegetarian, but what's wrong with our food system? I mean, why is it such an issue? Why are so many emissions coming out of it? Why is it propelling the climate crisis? And then that's kind of the step after the first step. That made me kind of.
How did you do that? It's so easy in that realizing that it's just so big, and you have close friends telling you that maybe this might not make a difference. What kept you going to take that next step and to not give up? How did you do that?
I'm not sure really. I mean, it might have been my curiosity. I just suddenly felt a passion for climate change, and I think finding what you're passionate within it that keeps you going. For example, I'm quite passionate about social justice, and that's what keeps me going, because I realize that climate change is a social justice issue, and we need to address these issues and these inequalities, and that's what keeps me going. I think maybe because climate change is so broad, it's about seeing what you're passionate about within it and what you can do to combat that. That also can keep you going. And again, linking back to kind of having conversations. I mean, those conversations were so important to me. I wouldn't be in this position today. I wouldn't know as much as I kind of know already about my knowledge in kind of the climate crisis. I'm not an expert, but what I do know so far, it's only because of the conversations that I've had with people.
That's so important. Thank you so much for that answer, Olivia. That was that's
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'm curious. You were following on this. You were following on the trail. At what point did you come to a realization about the incinerator?
I never knew about it. I always thought it was a factory, and I was in a local youth group, and someone actually mentioned there's a local injustice in our area. There's the Edmonton incinerator that's going to be expanded. And then I thought, well, this is crazy, because I've seen this incinerator throughout my childhood, and now I'm learning what it really is about. And that's kind of what made me see. And then I started looking into it more and learning about different people. And then I also joined a climate action group in my area, and the people within that group knew much more about it than I did. And it was just learning off them and kind of going with the process, because I wouldn't have this knowledge without other people.
Can I? I mean, this is so good. I'm looking at the time, and I should give me host privileges. So
I have a question to ask afterwards, Jonas. Go on.
Oh, good, please. Well, maybe we should take that one first. But I just want to be. I'd really like also to spend some time today reflecting about what happened. In this conversation that you had with Peter and Peter had with you, and what we were listening to and observing, and I mean, are these types? I mean, the type of conversation that we've just had, the difference that it might have, or the things that we kind of picked up in the conversation that kind of stood out or somehow made us curious. I want to find time just to invite people into thinking, what is it that happened in the last half an hour that somehow might be useful going forward when we talk with our children, or we talk with our parents, or we talk with people on this issue. I think there's something. I would really love to hear your thoughts on. So, what are we learning from conversations in this particular way? Aisha, you had some questions that you wanted to.
There are seven persons asking a very similar question. So I'm just going to take Carrie Glass's one. And hopefully this question represents everybody else's. People will say they care but don't have time. How do you get beyond that? And I'm also asking that question for a friend.
That's a very good question. I'm a student, so I don't have as much time as some people who are involved in environmentalism, for example, people who are retired. And I'm always so jealous of them. So I'm like, how do you have so much time? You can invest so much into what you're passionate about. And I think the truth is, there's never going to be kind of enough time. You just have to there's so much you can do with such little time. Sometimes, like having these conversations, for example, like just even sitting in the car with my dad when we're driving somewhere and just talking about it, that's valuable time that is being invested in talking about the climate crisis and expanding our knowledge and learning from each other. And it's not necessarily you have to go into the streets and protest every single day, because you don't have that. People have jobs. I mean, we all have to survive in this world. So I think it's just about finding what is within your capacity. What can you do? You don't have to be vegetarian, but it's about having these conversations, and it's about seeing, well, what's happening in my local area? Do I have time to maybe join a group, maybe learn from other people, and then just kind of take it at your own pace, but kind of learn from different people. And I think that's what's so important, is learning from other people, because we're all connected and we all have so much knowledge and so many different experiences to share. And I think as well, kind of linking to what you were saying, Jonas, about what I've taken from this conversation is the kind of question that you asked me earlier, Aisha, about, well, they're not representing us and they're not going to listen to us. It's so interesting to always hear what other people are thinking, what other people's barriers to participating or learning about climate change or taking action. And I think it's so important to hear those stories and to hear those thoughts and see, well, how can we overcome those together?
You know, I find it fascinating that we've had a conversation on maybe the most difficult and most pressing and urgent topic I can think of. But it's been such a pleasurable 45 minutes that we've talked about your strengths, we've talked about your learnings, and I feel really inspired by you and just by listening. What was it like for you to be in this kind of conversation when Peter was asking you questions about what's dear to you, or starting to happen, what's made it easier? I mean, as an observer, there's a line of thought that's resonating in most of the kind of questions. But you, as a recipient or as a co-constructionist in this conversation, what was it like for you to have a conversation on the climate crisis today?
I mean, it's inspiring, because you have to think adults don't really care, but then you see people like you guys, I mean, from all different parts of the world. And Brian, you're in Ghana, and then Peter, and you're in Switzerland, and Jonas, you're in Sweden, and actually we're both in London. I mean, the fact that we've kind of connected across this network, it's inspiring, because it all affects us. And when adults do have passion about climate change, I just feel so much hope, because I'm like, yes, we're not in this alone. We're all in this together. It's not just about the younger generation or the older generation. It's something that we face together, because what we all have in common is our species. We're all humans. So I think that's why it's so important to kind of connect, and that's what's inspiring.
I'm very encouraged that we're able to provide a source of hope despite everything. That's really very encouraging.
Yeah, it's very encouraging to me as well, because I mean, where would we be without you? So it's kind of, we're all in this together, and now we just kind of see how can we all move forward together, because we will inspire each other. There's something we all learn from someone every day.
Wow. Peter, can I ask you, I mean, prior to the coaching demo, you've spent a whole lifetime in, and practicing coaching conversations, and you said you spent the last few years, and you know more about polar ice melting than coaching nowadays, and having these two things merge in one conversation. What did you take away from this conversation? What learning is at the tip of your, on the top of your head or on the tip?
So one thing is, I'm stealing from Olivia, is she said, once you get hooked by your own passion, yeah. So I think that is a very important part. And I got hooked about coaching, and getting hooked about Arctic ice, sea ice, for example, and the whole broadness of the topic has changed my coaching in a very simple and striking way, and I was not expecting that. In the beginning, 20 years ago, I was trying to ask smart questions in order to direct the conversation into a useful direction. And what I got hooked in this evening, or with Olivia, is I forgot how to be useful. I was just so curious. So I'm not asking useful questions. I'm not asking the questions I'm supposed to ask. I'm asking questions because I am so passionately curious about what I hear her say. And I think that is the biggest difference.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for asking.
Aisha, have you, I mean, I know you can multitask, but you were also kind of observing what was happening between Peter and Olivia. What were you most impressed by?
I mean, it was a beautiful tango. It was a beautiful tango of old meets new. Excuse that, Peter. I don't mean that you're an old person, but two different generations having this beautiful conversation and sharing the same passion. And that really stuck out for me, and it goes back to what you've all actually been saying, and especially Olivia kind of highlighted this evening. It doesn't matter, your age, where you're from, what you're doing. This affects absolutely every single one of us, and that really, really did stand out to me. The fact that Olivia, from London, can have this conversation with Peter, and actually agree that we all need to do something on that. But Olivia is an amazing, amazing young person who we are all yet to learn so much from. And I've learned a lot just from listening in to this conversation. And I will be talking to, I'm still texting my parents, Olivia, don't worry, I'm on it. In fact, my mum has been listening, because there you go. There's my mummy there. See?
And I know we're running out of time, but if there's we would love to hear comments and reflections and observations of anybody's still on the chat who's listening in. So please drop a line. And what were you most impressed by? What was useful for you just listening in and looking at and being here? I'm really struck by how when I asked you what you took away from the conversation, it was something about you feeling inspired, and I feel that that's such a important part of climate crisis conversations that we sometimes forget. It's so easy to become despondent, or we get into despair, or we try to avoid despair. But instead getting into the position where we actually learn from each other, which you so wonderfully told us so many stories about. But even in this conversation here, there was so much learning and inspiration that was kind of rippling in the room and out of the room. And I find that remarkable, truly remarkable, that we could have conversations on something so difficult, which we find ourselves being so inspired. And that's still a bit of a mystery to me how that happens. But I think we're so lucky that this is recorded, so we can look at it again, and learn even more from what just happened. Because I think there's a lot to learn from, the power of conversation, the power of dialogue. That these feelings or these ideas of inspiration come up. It's a different type of inspiration or hope that maybe that we otherwise think about. But there's something very in the moment, great. Or not creative, maybe. It's kind of imminent. It's already there, but it's becoming even clearer, and which I think is so useful at this point of time. If we can have conversations to find those nuggets of imminent inspiration, because I think there's something very useful there. Sorry, on a rant. Anyway, here we go. Sue says something. Go on, Aisha.
So Sue said, an amazing conversation. I had so many questions which you have all answered throughout the conversation. I will be normalising these conversations with my grandchildren.
That's lovely.
Cool.
Carrie Glass, sorry guys, it didn't, because she put it from YouTube. So she said, I'm so impressed how her, and Olivia, this is about you, her passion has become part of her soul.
Nice.
There we go. And I will delete that one there. Block user. So what else have we got? This one's from Twitter. Olivia Ken, I don't know actually who it is though, Olivia. I'm so amazed and proud of the young lady that you have become. Keep going.
Whoa.
Don't know. I have one from a dad. This has been a very inspiring conversation. It was lovely to meet you all. I'm new to learning about the climate crisis, and I will be going back and watching the first episode.
Cool.
I want to make a small observation too, because I was also observing Peter's work in this conversation. I just want to highlight a few things that I've really liked. I liked his persistency, because sometimes Olivia, you went into talking about the world, but he was really interested in figuring out what was going on with you, and he asked, can I be persistent, and what are you most proud about yourself? And I just love that, bringing up that passion that you have, and making you reflect 2 or 3 or 4 times on what is it that's making a real big difference for you. And I find that was a strength in the coaching process too, that persistency, really, really curious about what was making a difference for the person he was talking to, i.e. you. I also liked phrasing like what's starting to happen, or what's dear to you, and what are you most grateful about. I really like these words that come up. I mean, we could reproduce them, but they were created in the moment with you. But I also like that kind of angle. There was a lot of what's valuable, what's there. So being persistent about those qualities, I think, is really good. And it's so easy to get sidetracked on the issue, talking about how everything is making a difference, and how and then losing your voice or your passion.
Okay.
I'm so good at bringing that to the center. So thank you.
And yes, Jonas, and we just observed and became part of something that you started to do around 15 or 17 minutes ago. It's have a conversation about the conversation. So not get entangled in just the chimney that made the very important, very concrete, hands-on beginning of the conversation, but then start to understand how such conversations become the way that we were lucky that this one has become. So thank you.
Just an observation. There was a question. There was a comment earlier about you can't take on the system because the system can't be changed. But actually, the system is not as solid as it appears. You'll actually see that from the UK news. Sometimes the system falls apart. And one of the things that we believe in solution focused practice is that a small change can move the whole system off in a completely different direction. And you're one of the changes that is going to be shifting the system.
Already doing it.
So, already shifting the system. So I think talking with you and seeing your passion to follow this through, the system is in trouble. And
I love that.
Is in trouble. That's a brilliant.
And actually, on that note, I will forward this on to you, Olivia, with their permission. A local MP has emailed, and apparently who have been watching the live chat and you talking about the Edmonton incinerator, and would like to have a conversation with you about how you can work together.
That's great.
So I've just emailed back to say, do I have your permission to forward it on?
There you go.
I mean, obviously all the local MPs have my email address. And can I just make it very clear, the only reason why local MPs have my email address is not because we do any work together. I just want to make that absolutely clear to everybody. But I will make an exception on this one.
Okay, cool.
And I will forward it over to you, Olivia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good work. Good work. Yeah.
Mr. Wells, would you like to draw it to a close?
I was just enjoying that moment of silence there. I've never ended a conversation just on silence. Maybe that will be our first too. But thank you so much, everybody, for such a great conversation and an opportunity for learning. I'm so grateful that we have this recorded and that we can, it's something that we could look back on and be very proud of that we were part of. I am very proud that I was part of this, and very nice, really nice to be witnessing this conversation and all the lovely things that emerged from it. Wow, I don't know what else to say. What, anybody else got anything to say? I'd love to hear.
If I'm going to say something, it's going to be the end, kind of. And it's something that was at the beginning of this conversation. The first couple of words were, "Here we are." And we had no clue who and where and why. Here we are. Thank you very much and good night.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thank you.
So we will see you in January. Have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Stay safe. Wear your masks when you're going out, guys. I don't want to be spreading all those germs on us. And we will see you for another FBS chat in January. Take care.
Take care, everybody.
Yeah.